Good evening and welcome, ladies. It's Dr. Fiona Tassoni again. Tonight I'm going to be talking about how stress affects your fertility. So before I make a start, I'd just like to say hello, Jess. Do you want to say hello? Give me some love.
Sure. Hi.
Hello, beautiful. How are we?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm excited to dive into this. We've got a beautiful new moon, annular solar eclipse. So I think it's always auspicious when we've got these big eclipses and new moons to set intentions, especially when we're talking about something stressful. So welcome, Jess. Anya, do you want to say hello? Do you want to unmute yourself and say hi? Do you want to unmute and say hello to me? Oh, okay. We're getting a wave.
Hello. Good
Hey,
evening, everyone. Hi.
my beauty. How are we?
Hi. I'm good. I'm good.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
excited to do a deep dive with you. How's your day been?
Also, for so good quiet today.
Today.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
soak this
Yeah.
up. I might make a start.
Yeah.
So I'll get you ladies to just mute yourselves while I do the presentation. Remember, I'm going to open up the Q&A as quick as I can, so stay around, stick to the end. And also remember, when you're asking your questions, if you can unmute, turn your video on, and that way I feed off your faces. So let's make a start. So I'm going to be talking about stress and how it dramatically affects your fertility. I think it's important. I'm kind of been using stress as a theme over the past few weeks, and I just wanted to talk about it because I know it is really one of the biggest struggles, and it's one of the biggest challenges that most of my patients face during this process, and it's very hard to measure because it's so invisible. So I'm just exploring and I'm opening up the topic a little bit more today. So if we just look at what stress is, it's our natural response to external pressures or demands, whether they be, they can be physical, they can be emotional, they can be environmental, and it triggers, this cascade of emotions and reactions that help us deal with challenging situations. Like, you could be, taking on a new job, you could be managing your own personal responsibilities, it could be, coping with loss, or even, pushing yourself during exercise. But, while short-term stress, it can motivate us, and we often use stress as a stimulus for motivation. It's about the chronic stress, and this is what we're going to talk about today. It's the chronic stress that can overwhelm your body's ability to maintain balance, and it's not just impacting the physical body, but it's the mental health that I'm seeing that's being impacted, and it's just our physical well-being, and that includes our fertility. So I just want you to know that everybody it goes through stress. It's a normal human reaction. It happens to everybody. All right. And not all stress is bad or abnormal, but what's important is it's about how you deal with the stress. And that's what we're going to explore today. So let's just talk about, stress. It signals that fight and flight response. We all know when it's turned on, it's like that surge of adrenaline that kicks in. It increases the cortisol, that's why it's called the stress hormone, and it's secreted from the adrenal glands. So if you look at the adrenal glands, they're those two glands located just above your kidneys. Okay, and the more stress you feel, the more cortisol your adrenals will produce. So what we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into the HPA and the HPO axis for short, and I'll explain what those two axes are. But, if we look at the HPA axis, this is your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Now, this is it gets turned on when you have that stress response, and it's responsible for a hormonal interplay of that stress response amongst other functions. But let's just correlate it with stress. And then we've got your hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. So it sounds very similar to the HPA, but it's the ovarian axis. And it's responsible for the hormonal events and that control the menstrual cycle. Now, that's what we're concerned about here, because there's this interplay between both of them. Now, they're two distinct axes, all right, in the body, and they have distinct feedback loops with the brain, and they regulate a series of functions in the body. Now, these two feedback systems, all right, HPA, HPO, all right, just think of two pillars. They affect each other, right? But they're separate. So they affect each other, but they're separate. So when the HPA axis is turned on during stress, okay, and this involves your adrenal glands, pumping out the cortisol, and your nervous system. Now, when that adrenaline gets pumped into the system, that axis gets turned on. So it switches on, which is great. It's your body's response to a stressful situation. But when it stays on, right, and it's not turned off, like that's the thing. When it stays on and it's on, and then it starts to impact your hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis. It affects your HPO axis. This is your reproductive axis. And so that's where, you can stop ovulating. And as a result, your menstrual periods can stop, or they can become irregular. And you see this dysregulation that starts to happen, this byproduct. So when your periods completely stop because the HPA axis has been turned on for too long, it's often called hypothalamic amenorrhea. So it's when it's been turned on for too long. All right. So the HPO axis has been turned on as a result as well. So that's why you can see chronic stress will impair ovulation. It will create irregular periods. It will create anovulation. And then that's what's going to affect your fertility. So that's where, with my work and my fertility coaching, it's about turning on those axes again, talking to your brain. And I love Chinese medicine for activating and, switching off the HPA axis, turning on the HPO axis. Acupuncture and Chinese medicine are amazing for that. So let's just look at some of the states, the conditions related to the HPA axis dysregulation. So this includes your PCOS. If you've got eating disorders, so anorexia, bulimia, it might be a combination of both. It could be, excessive physical exercise, marathon runners. Often you'll find that HPA axis dysregulation, it switches off that HPO axis, and, they just stop menstruating. But it can be low body weight, or it can be just extreme rapid weight loss. Can just switch it off. All right. So we've also got nutrient deficiencies. If you're not getting enough fats, you're not getting enough protein, carbs. We need carbs to ovulate, but we also need the vitamins and minerals. So nutrient deficiencies are related to that HPA axis dysregulation. We've also got chronic illness. We've also got systemic inflammation. And then we've got sleep disorders. I'm seeing a lot of this at the moment. A lot of my patients are going, especially change of seasons, think the sleep often gets disordered, and it just disrupts that sleep-wake cycle. So, and if you're doing shift work, or if you're traveling, just these things can go out of balance, and then, we're dysregulated. We've also got, in the third trimester of pregnancy, this is where the HPA axis gets activated. Okay, it's important that that's activated because we're focusing on giving birth. So that gets turned on when we're in the third trimester. Now, the stress of trying to conceive. Now, let's look at this. You've got this journey. It can be, it's emotional, it's physically, it can be spiritually taxing. I've got so many couples that just feel like this overwhelming sense of pressure when faced with the uncertainty. I think it's the uncertainty of each cycle, the constant monitoring of ovulation. Now, this is whether it's through apps, your ovulation predictor kits. Some of my patients do advanced hormone tracking. Now, this is with urine tests, but I get all my patients to do BBT charting. But it's this daily attention to what's going on, and it's the constant monitoring that, it's taxing. It does create some sort of stress. So, all this constant monitoring, creates stress about whether you will ovulate. It will, if you have a strong ovulation, and whether the prediction is even accurate. So, it's you can see it's already starting to build, and we're just doing the monitoring part of it. And then, I've got patients wondering if the timing is right, and then if they're, they're moving towards their dream of conceiving. It's, that wait time. There's the stress around the intimacy. It's beyond the biological aspects. Trying to conceive often puts strain on intimacy. So that's why I like to, teach my patients about Dr. Gary Chapman and the 5 languages of love, because intimacy can fall down in this process and it just generates a lot of stress. So we've got to fill each other's cups, whether it's, your love language is words of affirmation. If it's, gift giving or quality time, acts of service, find out what that language of love is for your partner. And if you don't know, get the book. And at the end of the book, there's a lovely little questionnaire, and you can actually find out, get your partner to fill it out, just get them to do A, B, C, D, circle the box, and then you can find it out pretty quickly. And then when you know that, for example, that your partner's love language is words of affirmation, you can start to write little love notes, and you can maybe write on red lipstick on the mirror. I love you, I want you, I desire you, ti adoro, we say in Italian, I adore you. Now we've got the stress around, what else? Just even the sex becomes a chore. That's, because it becomes scheduled and transactional rather than being natural and pleasurable. So we've got to look at love and intimacy. So that's why I introduced the word tantra. I know that can be triggering for some people, but tantra is all about love and connection. It's about quality time and interacting and looking at each other, having some soul gazing, really rich conversations of even just holding each other's hands, but, just being together. There's the pressure also then of performance anxiety, especially for the men. They also are very sensitive. And I think as women, we forget that, we go, oh, I'm ovulating. All right. It's like, up you come, let's go. This is not how men work. They're emotional beings like us. So we have to take the word ovulation out of the vocabulary, and we have to turn on the love language. So if it's quality time, spend quality time. If it's physical touch, having that physical touch and filling each other's cups so you can create the love and intimacy, and you naturally will work towards that place. But the moment you mention the word ovulation, the sperm starts going that way, his erection goes this way, and it's so much performance anxiety for the guys. So with all of my coaching patients, I teach them, we removed ovulation out of the vocabulary, right? And we bring love and intimacy into the equation, all right? Because it's all about love and intimacy. So then there's just the stress of the stress. You see the head trip we're in? It's like, road runner. Here we go. There's the wondering and the worrying, the anxiety. It's and all of this is just hurting your chances. It's a cycle of tension. It's a cycle of tension and worry. So I want to break it down. So you know what to look for, because like I've got a really amazing best friend at the moment. She didn't even know she had anxiety. Now I'm a highly anxious person. I didn't know I had anxiety until I was in my mid-40s. All right, because you don't know what you're looking for. It's like, when do we often self-reflect? When do we turn that giant torch back onto ourselves? We're always looking out at the world. So we want to look at, what does stress look like from a physical perspective? So these are the things we're looking for if you're stressed. To note, is your heart racing? Have you got palpitations? Is there, chest pain, heaviness in the chest? Is there exhaustion? Is there trouble sleeping? Like, are you ruminating in your mind before you're going to bed? Physical tension, can you do a body scan? Like I get my patients to do the yin massage. We do a yin massage and feel the body. You don't know until you start feeling these shoulders. Oh my God, I'm holding all this tension in my neck and my throat. When you pat your throat, like a little pussy kitty cat, pat your throat, and, is there tension in your throat, your neck? Oh my God, it holds up this 9-kilo head. So let's look at the tension in your body. Is there headaches? Is there dizziness? Are you trembling sometimes? And this, people just think, oh, you're trembling because you've had a few wines. No, this is a sign of stress, with this shaky tenderness. So if your hands, you're trembling, even your lips can tremble, this fluttering of the heart, it's this trembling, shaky, hotty, sweaty, teary, difficulty concentrating, aches and pains, is it your knee pain, back pain? Has there been something that's constant, like every time you sit down, you notice, oh, my lower back, oh, or getting up, going from sitting to standing, and you notice there's that difficulty. So look at your aches and pains. Is there trouble having sex even, with physical intimacy? Is there an inability to do that? What's the trepidation there? Is there shaky tenderness there? Is there high blood pressure? Is there stomach or gut problems? Is there digestive problems? That's why I do a comprehensive intake form with all my patients. And they like, bloating after eating, all these little things that are in the intake form. They tell me categorically what your stress is doing in the body. Are you having recurrent colds and flus? There's the weak immune system. There's a form of stress on the immune system. Now let's look at the emotional body. All right, so what sort of emotions are we looking for with stress? So anxiety, and nervous. Are you saying, I'm fine? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like when you go to the doctor, how are you? I'm fine. Now, I don't know if you understand what that acronym means, but I'll let you Google that one because I'll get banned off YouTube. Insecure for I, nervous for N, exhausted for E. So you've worked out what F means, right? So if you're saying I'm fine, if someone asks you you're fine, then clearly you're under a lot of stress. It's my little funny way of bringing humor into this, because you can see when people say I'm fine, you need to check more in with the people that are telling you that they're fine, because they're so not fine. That means there's some dysregulation going on, and often they are at their wits' end when they're saying they're fine. All right, panic attacks, irritability, you're just crying, sadness, depression, restlessness, just can't sit still. You might have a sense of isolation. You might have low self-esteem. I have a patient, just got off a coaching call. She's the most accomplished woman, but has low self-esteem, that she's not good enough. Overwhelm. You can even feel a lot of fear, feeling scared. Let's look at the psychological component of stress. So chronic worry, catastrophizing, this ruminating thoughts. So these are recurring thoughts that, you're repetitively, or overthinking, overanalyzing. You've solved the problem, but you're going over it again, and you're going over it again. And this often involves a lot of negative thoughts and bad emotions. And it can be impaired concentration, impaired judgment, feeling hopeless, or a loss of control. Now we look at the behavioral concept, right? We're really digesting the stress. You see that stress has got a big umbrella. It's a big umbrella, right? And I'm only unpacking the basics. But if you look at behaviors, I really like this, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. All right, so if we think of fight, anger outbursts. Flight, what does that mean? Anxiety, overthinking, obsessive compulsive. If we think about being frozen, you see some people, they're just like, you ask them something, they're like frozen. They're frozen. They're stuck. They have difficulty making decisions. They're disassociated. They're frozen. So if you see someone frozen, they're usually probably in a state of fight, flight. They're in freeze. They need a helping hand. You don't go and beat someone up when they're stuck, when they can't make a decision. That's when they need more connection, because they're disassociated. And you see that just by understanding this in the workplace or with your friends, when your mate is down, Black Hawk down, and she's stuck and she can't make a decision for herself, that's where you step in and you go, I got you, girl. I've got you, and you help them, you help clarify and you support each other, right? And then it can be fawn. So this is people pleasing. It's like having no boundaries and being overwhelmed. So to remember that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. These are some big things to watch out for with your friends, in your community, with your beloved. Okay, so other behavioral aspects of stress. Changes in the sleep-wake routine, changes in the appetite. It could be changing your work performance, your performance review at work, if you're feeling like socially isolated, if you're having difficulty communicating, or you've got this sense of, losing control. You've got increased unhealthy behaviors. And, you've seen people go off the deep end. They start to, have these unhealthy behaviors. This is not normal behavior for them. They might be highly impatient or a short fuse, or overeating is another big, giveaway when there's a lot of stress, or compulsive shopping. All right. These are all coping strategies for stress. Let's look at the psychological impact of infertility on us. So the research, it shows that infertility and trying to conceive for such a long time, it has a profound impact on our health. It's psychologically threatening. It's emotionally stressful. It's economically expensive. And then it's often physically painful. With some of my patients, it's a massive complex life crisis. I feel like I'm a crisis counselor a lot of the time. I'm holding the space for these breakdowns. I love a breakdown because often it's a breakthrough, but this is a massive psychological impact that happens. Women, that may have pre-existing histories of depression or anxiety may find themselves, these symptoms are escalating, and they're brought on by the stress involved by the process of the infertility treatment. Okay, women that don't have anxiety, or find the process an emotional roller coaster, they can go into guilt and anger and hopelessness and disappointment. So they can be subtle. You don't have to have pre-existing. You can develop these subtle things on the side. But the more physically and emotionally demanding the intrusive patient's medical treatments become, this was my observation, the higher reported symptoms of the anxiety and the depression. So you can see this, like, woo, it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of hormones, of hope, of disappointment, of hope, of disappointment, of hope, of disappointment. And it's just a breeding ground. It's a breeding ground for worry, and it makes stress almost this universal. It's making it almost universal to the treatment, isn't it? The treatment process. So let's look at how the stress affects your eggs. So it's going to impair your follicular maturation in the ovary. So when your body's under chronic stress, you're going to get elevated cortisol, and that then interferes with the signals needed for healthy follicular development. It makes sense, doesn't it? So you're not going to mature the follicles. It leads to either irregular or absent ovulation. You've got reduced egg quality. Like the studies suggest that the elevated cortisol and the stress-induced inflammation, they lead to oxidative stress. And that's not great for DNA. We're creating DNA damage in the eggs. We're reducing viability, and we're increasing the chances of chromosomal abnormalities. We've got, an effect on the estradiol biosynthesis in the ovary. So that means that, if the estradiol is not adequate, and this is what leads to an endometrial thin lining, okay, and then reduces the chances of successful impaction. We want those embryos to stick. Stress induces poor IVF outcomes. So it just elevated stress levels. It's linked to lower fertilization rates with IVF, fewer high quality embryos, and reduced implantation success. And then it's, the flow effect on the sperm. We've got, issues with the sperm. The sperm is then, it affects the sperm motility, it affects the sperm quality, DNA fragmentation. But I'm going to talk about some of the disorders, the stress-related disorders, and how stress impacts them. So with PCOS, you've got increasing levels of your cortisol and androgens. So that can worsen the insulin resistance with PCOS. It can then make the menstrual irregularities more irregular. It can make, the cycle become anovulatory. So, the symptoms of PCOS become more difficult to manage. So additionally, it can disrupt the ovulation, which is already a challenge in PCOS. But we've then got chronic anovulation. So chronic anovulation, this is when I was talking about that HPO axis being turned off completely. So chronic stress, it can just lead to that anovulation, where ovulation doesn't occur. And that's because the stress hormones like cortisol are interfering with your LH and FSH production. The irregular periods. All right, we've got irregular periods, stress-induced hormonal changes interfere with progesterone, leading to unstable cycles. So then we've got, estrogen dominance. It becomes more dominant because you're not ovulating. So estrogen dominance becomes an issue. Stress can negatively affect the thyroid, okay, which is vital for maintaining your hormonal balance and metabolism. So it leads to hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. You know, it affects that HPA axis and it alters that TSH level. So it's particularly concerning for thyroid disorders because they're, you know, it then can lead to increased risk of miscarriage and irregular cycles if you've got thyroid disease. With autoimmune diseases, stress, you know, it's just going to make things worse. You know, stress has been shown to, you know, increase the production. We call them pro-inflammatory cytokines. So it worsens the flare-ups with things like Hashimoto's and lupus. So it's going to disrupt, you know, your ovarian function, implantation, inflammation. It can elevate prolactin. That's what stress does, you know. So high prolactin levels interfere with ovulation by suppressing your gonadotropin releasing hormone. So that's going to lead to, you know, with high prolactin, you've got irregular periods. And then we've got stress-induced hyperprolactinemia. Okay, it's a common cause of anovulation. And cabergoline is something that I'll often recommend when the prolactin is elevated. We've got stress will decrease the endometrial receptivity. Okay, so stress will negatively affect that endometrial lining and it will reduce the blood flow because that's what stress does. It takes the blood away, all right? And it's because we're always going to prioritize the stress over blood flow to the lining. So it's going to affect your implantation. You know, it's going to interfere with your estrogen and progesterone levels, reducing the thickness and the receptivity of the lining, making it harder for the embryo to implant. We've got hyperandrogenism. So stress can elevate your androgens. That's what that means. And that means, you know, we've got an increase in testosterone, which is concerning for if you do have PCOS. So the elevated androgens can then also lead to hirsutism, you know, that's the excess hair growth, acne, and the irregular periods, which can further disrupt ovulation. So you see, it's this massive cascade of stress. So you see why, you know, we've got to find where it is and address it pretty quickly. And then it's just it decreases your sex drive. Like if you're stressed, you know, who feels like having sex when they're stressed? Look, I know a lot of men a lot of the males tend to do it as a release, but with women, we're a lot different to men. You know, it has a decrease in our libido as women, you know, because it's disrupting the balance of testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. And then, you know, it just dampens that sexual desire. Yeah. And if you're sad or crying, try being sexy when you're depressed or when you're bawling your eyes out. That's the last thing on your mind, isn't it? So what are your stressors? Like, let's think about that. What are your thoughts right now? If you can just do a little body scan, your thoughts, what are your worries right now? What are your anxieties right now? Like, this is the little check-in, because we need to check in. We need to ask ourselves, because otherwise we don't see, because we're so busy looking out at the world. Now, are they real or are they imagined? You know, because we can distort the thought. You know, our thoughts change over time. If you give it space and time, often those thoughts, we gain momentum. You know, we're very artistic with our artistic license, you know, so we want to know, are they real or are we adding volume to the stressor? Where do these thoughts and worries come from? Now, are they coming from, you know, limiting beliefs? Are they coming from past experiences? Is there trauma from a past relationship? Is there sexual trauma? Is there something in your childhood that's happened that hasn't been explored? That, you know, there could be abandonment issues, just something as simple as that. It could be, you know, a need for control and certainty. It could be, you know, it could be just, you know, ovulation stress, timing stress, scheduling, the trying to conceive and scheduling the sexual intimacy creates the stress in itself. Now it can be the waiting. I call it, you know, I don't know if you know Dr. Seuss, the places you'll go, but they call it the waiting place, you know, waiting for the bus to come, the train to arrive, you know, it's in the Matrix, the waiting place. It's not a place, it's not a fun place to be in, the waiting place, the 2-week wait. So what are you doing in that? Yeah. So where do these thoughts come from? Are they in the waiting place? Can we strengthen the waiting place? other people can stress you out. So, are they coming from other people, that maybe you've told too many people that you're trying to conceive, or maybe you haven't got enough support network, or maybe the questions that are coming to you are just triggering you because people just asking, when are you having a family? Have you considered having children? Oh, you must be getting another one along the way. All these thoughts, you've got to look, where are they coming from? Sometimes it can just be one family member that triggers you. Your great aunt always asks that same bloody question at the dinner table. All right, so we want to just take ownership of them. It could be even pregnancy announcements. They trigger stress. They trigger hope. There can be that, feeling unfair. You can have feeling jealousy or even guilt. So let's now get into the strategies of managing the stress. So I want you to prioritize communication with your partner. So if you are going through infertility or fertility treatment, or, in this process, you've got to discuss ahead of time your hopes, your expectations of one another, your wins, your losses. Because we often don't take the time. We just kind of park it and we just kind of sweep it under the mat. So, for example, whether you want to be together at appointments, or on the day of the pregnancy test, when you're expecting to get a call from the doctor. Like, these are the times we need to be around each other. Talk to your partner about your feelings and your needs. If your partner, they're not mind readers, so know your own and your partner's style for dealing with stress and what's helped in the past. Sometimes a nice time out, space is a great thing. It might be helpful to set a limited amount of time to talk about the treatment. There might be 20 minutes a day, putting aside some, let's just talk about the downside of this process, and just give it 20 minutes and then let it go. So you're not staying in it. You dive in and get out.
I think it's Deanne Hansen.
All right, ladies. Hello.
Hi.
Hey there.
2 weeks in a row. Anyway, it's all good. I've paired my phone. Thank God we've got these mobile phones, which are great. So sorry for the disruption. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through some self-care techniques. So we spoke about just, communicating with your partner, giving time to your relationship. I think that's where we're at. And then I think it's about friends and family support. Part of this whole stress thing is, sometimes it's about just appointing someone as a spokesperson, like that can let others know, or you might just even want to claw back who you talk to. Because I find the less you tell people, the less you feel like you need to update them. But having that designated family member or friend that can tell people when you're ready to let them know what's going on. But yeah, these support groups, this is important. This community where you're not feeling alone. Online groups in your own community. Look outside your usual network and find others who've gone through a similar process or are in the same process. But some mindfulness and some self-care techniques. So if you're not tried meditation, then you could maybe download an app, start with guided meditations, or it may even be that you try Vedic meditation, where you just start 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Try doing it even if you can't commit to 20 minutes, then you start off with 5 minutes either side and then build up to 10. And it's before you know it, you get to 20 minutes really quickly. But meditation is such a beautiful practice because it almost gives us a little bit of processing time to be able to just sit in the present. Because most of the time, as women, we're either lost in the past ruminating, or we're thinking in the future ruminating, but we're not here in the here and now. And what meditation allows us to do is be immersed in the present. Now, if you feel like you can't meditate, then find the thing that you like doing, because there's meditations in action: gardening, painting, doing. Find the things you are immersed in the present, when you're beyond time and whatever that is, just do the things that you love. Journaling, I teach all of my patients the EFT tapping because it's really important, for managing stress and realigning all the meridians. I teach all the breathing exercises because lower diaphragmatic breathing, it helps cultivate the chi and blood to the reproductive organs. It reduces the stress. It turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. So you want to cultivate a breathing practice. If it's just, lower diaphragmatic breathing, letting the belly rise and fall, one hand on the heart, the other hand on your womb space, connecting to the palace for the child. We call it zigong in Chinese medicine. But, just to cultivate that at night, if it's 5 to 10 minutes when you go to sleep at night. But then it's like other things. Exercise is an important stress management practice. So find what it is that you like. It's about doing what you love, what inspires the joy in your face. So if it's yoga, Pilates, walking, hiking, it could be swimming, weight training, Tai Chi, Qigong. Now, most women who are highly exercised, I tend to find they over-exercise. I know that I'm laughing because it's like I have to kind of pull them back. It's like, especially my corporate ones, like I'm going to pull you back because their bodies are screaming out, nourish me, please be kind to me. They're screaming at them. I see it in their tongue and their pulse, so, don't get me wrong. Our bodies are designed to move. We are designed to move. Otherwise, we feel tired, we feel sluggish, we feel unmotivated when we don't exercise. But physical activity that's too intense, is going to be counterproductive. So it's about finding stuff and you're really vigorous stuff. You're doing after you finish your period. So from your till ovulation, that's when you do exercise. After you've ovulated until your period, and then if we're leading into early pregnancy, we then pull back. All right. So I think that's probably the best way that I can explain it. In terms of your food, eat well, because food is grounding for the mind. It's grounding for the stress. So if you can, it's a one pillar you're in control of. So think of, leafy greens, kale, spinach, arugula, rocket, silver beet, collard greens, but we want, protein, carbs, healthy fats. These are your building blocks for embryos. So you need around 30% carbs, 25 to 30% protein, and then about 40 to 45% of fat. So that's a healthy macro breakdown for your preconception. Looking at antioxidants, so you want a lot of vitamin C because it lowers inflammation. It's a de-stressor. It's great on your egg quality. So look at your vitamin C rich foods. So citrus, oranges, kiwi, limes, lemons, grapefruits, but bell peppers, strawberries, cruciferous veg, thyme, parsley, mustard, spinach, kale, lychees, papaya. There's even got those beautiful, the cherries. It's divine. All right. Look at some lemon balm tea. It's one of my favorite teas for stress. It's kind of it's my calm tea at night. It's very safe for early pregnancy. So it's also calming on the nervous system. I love lemon balm tea. We just need to remember that we need to nourish and feed an embryo if we wish to increase the potential for implantation. So always come back to the philosophy of simplicity and nourishment of your body. So it's just about being kind, being gentle, being loving towards yourself, but you can control the food. So get this with all of my patients. Your supplements. So magnesium is one of my favorites. It's my anti-stress mineral. It's the anti-stress mineral. Your body needs more magnesium during times of stress. And a lot of people don't get enough from it from their diet. Okay, so it's best absorbed before bed. So it's also a magnesium. It's a spark plug for the adrenal glands. So I tend to get my patients to do it before bed. But you can also do, if you're under a lot of stress, you can do magnesium 3 times a day. Yeah. Indeed. So it's found in brown rice, it's found in beans, it's found in spinach, it's found in Swiss chard, it's found in nuts, seeds, sea vegetables like kelp. But if we're doing, a rough, 300 milligrams, You can do up to, 369. You can do, just keep it under 1,000 milligrams, but, just do it to modify and help you during these times of stress. B vitamins are also fantastic for stress. I've mentioned the vitamin C in terms of your supplement. If you wanted to dose that, you can do like 1,000 milligrams a day. Vitamin D, it's very good for, stress, lowering cortisol. So around 5,000 IU, I have my fertility patients on. It's also good for the immune system. It suppresses the white blood cells and it modulates the immune system. So it helps, it's very, very good if you've got an overactive immune system. So if you've got like Hashimoto's or allergies or autoimmune, so you want vitamin D, or you've got that cytokine inflammatory storm that I mentioned. Zinc is another one. Metallic mineral. It plays a role in egg maturation, and deficiencies in this nutrient are associated with decreased fertility. And when we're under stress, we use more zinc. We use up the zinc first, and we need zinc to be able to metabolize most of the other vitamins. So you need to make sure you're not zinc deficient. Vitamin E is another one I really like. Vitamin E helps vitamin C do its work, and it helps absorb and neutralize the free damaging radicals molecules inside the adrenal glands. So foods high in vitamin E, you've got, if we're doing our seed cycling, which I know you're all doing, you've got your sunflower seeds and your sesame seeds. So that's your vitamin E. But yeah, almonds, spinach. But if you're supplementing around 400 milligrams a day or 1,000 IU, some adaptogenic herbs are good for stress. So ashwagandha, rhodiola, licorice. Okay, so you can use those adaptogens. And if we're doing like like the Raza coffee, it has the ashwagandha with the chaga and the reishi mushrooms. So this is a great tea that I'll often transition a lot of my patients that like caffeine into Raza coffee with ashwagandha, because it's adaptogenic. Now, it's important if we are stressed that we get enough sleep. Sleep is another pillar, all right? It's essential for stress management. And studies show that stress hormones quickly rise after poor night's sleep. So if in the evening you've got melatonin rising, the cortisol levels decline. So it's key to give them some support. So a few things that you can do to improve your sleep is to go to bed at the same time. Structure for hormones. And then find the wind down time. So, let's cut digital devices after 7. So that your bedroom is associated with sleep and darkness. So dark curtains, blackout curtains, cool room. Okay, it's better that it's cool and you're not overheated in your bedroom. But we want to avoid any caffeine, any alcohol before bed. Clearly, we'd be wanting this out of this process anyway. But I need to remind you, they're stimulants, so it's going to affect your sleep-wake cycle. The half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. So, if you're having caffeine late in the day, you're going to be awake. All right. So you want to just make sure, your sleep and your wind down. So you could have your lemon balm tea, your legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, your belly breathing, have a magnesium bath. You see, if you put these things in place, then the body starts to follow suit. It's no different to when you have your newborn and you have a disrupted little newborn. How do you regulate it? You bath them, you feed them, you wrap them, you make, it's just, you wind them down. We're no different to our newborn. So sometimes we have to take ourselves through a sleep-wake cycle and regulate it. So we want to support natural detoxification pathways when you're stressed. So that's why when I start working with patients, I always understand they're usually going through stress. That's why they've come to see me. So detoxification is usually part of the early part of my fertility coaching. That's where I usually will start with a liver supporting protocol. I will teach them about, liver supporting herbs on castor oil packs under the liver, not just in the follicular phase, some dry brushing, lymphatic massage, using bitter herbs like dandelion and, milk thistle, and getting their bowels regular. And, so I teach a lot of these natural detoxification processes, and it's if you can incorporate them all the way through, because one thing that I do teach all my patients is the morning ritual. It's your lemon love, it activates the liver to produce more bile, but it sets up your gut enzymes and those detoxification pathways. It works on your estrobolome. So that's part of your natural detoxification just by doing that daily. You're flushing the liver, setting up the enzymes, and you're helping your detoxification pathways. Simple things make all the difference. We want to look at endocrine disruptors when there's a lot of stress, because these are the other invisible things that we don't see. It's becoming, more mainstream. We're starting to talk about the phthalates and the microplastics in the oceans. We're seeing all these cleanup activities, but, now we're, looking at our hand sanitizers, paraben-free, pesticides, getting rid of the glyphosate, using your zeolites and your apple cider vinegar to wash all your vegetables and take all your heavy metals away. But if you look at all of these endocrine disruptors, they have negative effects on the HPA axis. And so it's important, you take time vegetables. Let's try and drink filter the water. What else? Just the plastic straws, the pre-packaged takeaways. If you are eating takeaway food, take it out of the container. Don't let it sit in there hot and let all those plastics seep into the food. Take it out, put it in something ceramic or a glass container. We want to reduce your non-stick cookware. We want to think stainless steel or ceramic. If you can avoid air fresheners, avoid, go green. Let's go green. And, we've got beautiful, environmental working groups. One organization, they are a community of scientists that find solutions, natural solutions, so you can make smart, healthy choices. EWG.org. We've also got Irina Webb. She reads the labels for you. She's a consumer safety advocate and a manufacturer advisor for ingredient safety. So Irina Webb, I read labels. She's amazing. So you can look at your hair colorings and your conditioners and your shampoos, all of these things. As women, there's so many products we put on our bodies before we even walk out the door. All right. So practice your detox techniques, your castor oil packs, your dry brushing, your lymphatic massage. Try and get rid of your candles. A lot of them, especially if they are paraffin candles, it's the phthalates. They're going to disrupt the air, disrupt the hormones. And they're associated with asthma and allergies and dermatitis. So get rid of scented candles. Try and go for essential oil candles that are made with soy wax or coconut wax, if you like your candles. But, you want to fix the mold in your home. You want to get out of a moldy home or get a mold expert in there. If you're using plastic baby bottles, you start using glass baby bottles. You can also, if you look at the diapers, cloth diapers. I mean, my mum cloth them. It's hilarious. So, disposable diapers, they're extremely toxic to the environment. So let's come back to the cloths. Some complementary therapies for stress. So Chinese promote the acupuncture and Chinese medicine. It's my number one complementary therapy for this process. But with the reflexology, massage, osteopathy. What else? Cognitive behavioral therapy. Because we need to think, sometimes it's about the psychology. It could be even intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, ISTDP, hypnosis, craniosacral therapy. And the last one I was going to mention is the eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. It's called EMDR. It's a form of psychotherapy treatment. It's designed to alleviate stress and distress associated with trauma memories. So I've had so many patients, I've even tried it myself. It's quite extraordinary how quickly you can process trauma with that technique. One final strategy. So I'm going to wrap this up and we're going to jump into the Q&A, and I'm just going to talk about whole brain posture. It's one final strategy to calm stress immediately. So we can all do this right now. So with your feet, we cross the feet over. Right over left at the ankle, or left over right. It doesn't matter. Just choose what feels better. I like right over left. Extend your arms out in front of you. cross them over, and then we interlock them onto the chest. You can leave them down on the knee, but I find interlocking them onto the chest. All right. And what we're doing here is we are then literally communicating with this corpus callosum, with the brain. All right. We're working on the subconscious mind, because if we look at the subconscious mind, it's 1,000 times faster than the conscious mind. All right. So it's one way that we can, create a change in our subconscious beliefs by doing this process. Now, Einstein's brain, what they found, when they dissected his brain, they found a very large corpus callosum. This is the highway, the nerve fibers, which connect the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So it helps reduce the stress response in the body. It induces the alpha brain waves, okay, and it induces a state of relaxation. It alleviates depression and anxiety, okay, so it helps you think clearer if you're dysregulated. So you can do this, and then just place the tongue at the top of the top palate, like this, then close your mouth. And I want you to just close your eyes. Now, you might just think of something that you've been ruminating about or stressing about. It could be a fight with your partner. You haven't been sleeping well. Think about that stressful thought, that stressful memory. Breathe into it. And keep breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Keep your mouth closed. And you want to stay here. And often I find there's this shift that happens over the body, right? As the brain waves start to shift. And it's like this blessing that comes over the body. Wait for it, because most of the time we're in beta brain, right? Those waves. Okay. So when you start to go into the alpha waves, you just feel like, oh, there it is. And you feel really sedated. Once you feel the shift, you can unravel your hands, unravel your feet. How we respond to it, and we can just integrate some of these practices, okay? Some of the practices, the nourishing foods, the supporting herbs, the supplements that I've mentioned, some of these tools, whole brain posture, anything that can shift you from a place of stress to one of calm, connection, and fertility. So just remember, know this, that your body is resilient, your body is powerful. With the right support, it can thrive in even the most challenging circumstances. So I'm going to open up the Q&A. Would anyone like to ask
ourselves a new internet provider?
Indeed, yes, I agree. Are there any questions?
I have a question about, I guess, how do you, obviously we know that the problem to stress is, just all these therapies to help you overcome it. And I don't know if this has anything to do with the talk, but how do you help the women who, especially during the luteal phase when you're supposed to really calm down, women who have anovulatory cycles, or you just can't figure out where, depending on your BBT chart, where in your cycle you really are. How do you know whether it's time to work out or just kind of start calming down,
Oh, Darcy, you broke up and I didn't hear most of what you said.
Okay, so basically my question, I'll repeat it.
Yeah.
My question pertains to, I guess, I know you deal with women who go through anovulatory cycles, and then women who just can't tell where they are in their cycle because their BBT charting is kind of off, like mine is right now. So I was wondering, like, do I need to work out or do I need to, am I in my luteal phase where I need to just kind of tone it down a little bit? And, I don't know what to do because my B teacher really is
It's
lost right
stressing
now.
you out. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, I only have one chart, one chart that's, and it's an anomaly. Look for is so we always like the 2 or 3 charts where it's showing the same pattern before we make any definitive statement about anything. Part of it can be there could be a stressor. There could have been a relationship problem. It could have been your sleep was dysregulated because of the change of season. It could even be, at the moment we've got the solar eclipse. All right, the annular solar eclipse. All right, these things, environmental stress on the body can just impact the cycle. So we're always looking, is it an anomaly or is it a pattern that we need to address? So, part of it is like, okay, is it the first time this has happened? And if that's the case, then how do we support you in this place now? So if your temps are low, so what we could do is like, all right, okay, what do we need? We need more warming foods. We need to do some moxa on the soles of the feet or spleen 6. It could be moxa on the lumbar. It can be some foot soaks in some magnesium and legs up the wall. I tend to wind down the exercise. If you remember, the vigorous exercises more after in the follicular phase. So it's about stepping into a state of calm because you're already worried about the chart. So I would be walking, sitting in nature, finding some more stillness within. So less actual doing and more being was what I would recommend for you right now. Ines, do you have a question for me? You might want to unmute yourself, my love. Oh, there we go.
No, I don't have a question. I mean, I was just trying to think about what stresses me out the most. And I know one thing is my feet. I feel like that's like my major stressor, like just like standing and things
Yeah.
like that for most of the day.
Okay.
But I do a foot soak
Yep.
occasionally, and that helps.
What's the floor
But
like to
I've been
stand on?
doing
Ines, what's the floor like? What is the floor like that you stand on? What's it like?
a hard floor. It's like a concrete floor, but I do have a mat.
Okay, great. I was going to suggest that. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Still.
it just after so many hours, it doesn't matter your shoes. I'll even change my shoes sometimes. Your feet just hurt. My feet hurt.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
know
indeed.
that's like for
Well,
me
if
a
you've tried,
major stress.
I we hear you. I feel you.
Yeah.
Have you tried reflexology?
Oh, yes. Well, I bought some little slippers that have like acupuncture points in them or something.
Great.
And it hurts. Like it's like little plastic, yeah, it kind of hurts a little bit, but I don't wear them very long. I'll just do like maybe 2 minutes to walk around the house and that's it. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. But you're doing all the right things, my darling. You've got the mat, you've got the mindfulness, acupressure on the soles of the feet. Kidney 1 is one of my favorite points on the sole of the feet here, right? Yeah. And if you actually I use my knuckles and you go from kidney 1 all the way down to the heel. There's another point. And what this does is it works on the kidney meridian. All right. So often that band there is very tight. Okay. So if you can actually get something like a golf ball, the size of a golf ball. Now I'm using my essential oil ball, this round thing to roll over the feet, something to roll over. Okay. And it's powerful, like even a ball bearing, something round that you can put under that sole. And, even if you use the knuckles to go down that tendon, very powerful.
okay.
Yeah. It releases the pressure in the feet. Yeah. Renata's saying, if you wear insoles, try Spanko.
Okay.
She's been wearing them for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And she's had no foot issues. Thanks, Renata. That's great. So Spenco, give those a go. Yeah. Any other questions, ladies? Sorry about today. Go for it.
I have a question.
Oh, yep. Who's first? Either or. We'll do. Jess, you're unmuted, so you go first.
Okay, so I wanted to know when it comes to essential oils and diffusing them to help with stress and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I use the 100% organic, but is there like a specific essential oil that we can use to diffuse to help with that luteal phase stress? Because I'm with Darcy, like that luteal phase comes and like I know I'm around my ovulation because I start getting anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, it's personal. For me, I really love geranium because it's the connection essential oil. I'll send you something on geranium, and I like to diffuse geranium. I'm not an expert in essential oils, but you know there are a plethora of ones that you can use, but they're my two go-tos. I love geranium because it's part of this is about feeling connection because we sometimes feel so disconnected in this phase.
Okay.
And
So geranium and what was the other one?
Lavender.
Okay, I have both of those. And then another question, have you heard of salt therapy?
Yes, I have.
Halo therapy, or I think it's called.
Mm.
How's that for stress and anxiety?
Look, I've sat in salt rooms and I find them deeply relaxing. I took my husband with me. It was the worst thing I ever could have done because it was just, he's not that person. He's not the person to sit still. His mind's going a million miles an hour. Bless his cotton socks. So I sat in the salt room, I'm doing my meditation. I'm like digging it. And I was like, I could really get used to this. Is it something that I recommend all the time? No, not necessarily. But if it floats your boat and it feels good, I think give it a go. It's great on the lungs, great on the immune system.
Okay, thank you.
Jamie, do you want to unmute? Or Renata? Go for it.
Hi.
Jamie, hi.
Like this is like the number one thing for me is stress and lack of sleep. So I was at a doctor's appointment on Monday and I got a hold of a different doctor at the office. He was really nice and we discussed using, because you're always talking about magnesium, but using magnesium supplement with melatonin as well.
Right.
So he said, try the 5 milligrams of the melatonin first. That should be enough when you combine it with the magnesium. So I did that the first night. I tried first just the melatonin the first night. And then last night I did melatonin and the magnesium. I got a liquid because I'm not good with big capsules.
Yeah. I prefer liquid. And how did you go? How was it?
It's weird. I have a little idea of what I might have done that would interrupt it, but I slept better the first night with just the melatonin. And when I added the magnesium, I did notice being relaxed, but I was up in the middle of the night. But I think I'll admit, I realized later on, I'm like, oh, it's because I had a chai tea like in the afternoon. I do have herbal tea, but I went out to Tim Hortons and I got a chai tea.
Oh.
So that one has the black tea in it.
Oh, I see. Oh, there we go. All right.
But at home I have the herbal version.
There we go. We need the herbal version. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to buy more.
But you're on the right path, honey. I think you're on the right path, and I think it's a good strategy of play together. You'll see which one, together or separately. It's about finding what fits for you. But I do think that combo treatment, absolutely great.
Well, the next thing I wanted to ask you was when you were saying about the different types of therapy. I wrote it down sort of, but I'm not sure if I put it right. The ISDDT, what is that?
Intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy, ISTDP. It's what it means. It's intensive short-term work into that amygdala brain, because that's kind of like the reptilian brain. It's our instincts. Like a lot of the times if we don't get access to that amygdala brain, and that's what the intensive short-term dynamic psychotherapy gets right back there. because that's like all our belief systems start right back in the amygdala, and it's quite intense, but it's a form of psychotherapy. Highly recommend it.
Okay, so you said ISDD or DD or DP?
Intensive, short-term, dynamic.
Okay.
Dynamic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what was the EMDR?
EMDR. Yeah. It's eye movement.
Oh, that's what it is.
Eye
Okay.
movement. Yeah. Desensitization, reprocessing. So EMDR, it's another form of psychotherapy. You're looking at, your eyes are going like
Yeah.
this. It's usually like a metronome. Tick tock.
Oh,
tick
yes.
tock. Tick
Okay.
tock. Your eyes are going, and I felt like I was going, okay, this is interesting. I've done a lot of this stuff because I've got to walk people through it. And I found it really interesting, to process a trauma memory. And then all of a sudden I've done this metronome thing. And then she asked me, now, how do you feel about that memory? And before, when I thought about that trauma memory, I would actually feel like I'm in the moment and it's still happening. But once I did the EMDR, I could actually then look back and talk about the memory without feeling like it was happening to me. So it was very interesting. I don't know the mechanism behind it, but for me, I was like, whoa, it worked wonders. Yeah. So I recommend it. I recommend the things that I've tried.
Okay. One last question about therapy, because I was thinking about trying to find, like, I don't know what would be the best for me. I want to look into trauma therapy, but I feel like because I was adopted, I talked to my mom and me talked a little bit about this a long time ago when she was more alert, but about like some kind of like hypnotherapy to find something like in a memory that I'm not sure if it's real or if I have a memory of it because I was so young or what. Like, I don't know if I could pull anything out, but I don't know where to start.
I think that's a great start. Start with what's instinct, use your emotional intelligence. And if that's coming up, give it a go. Yeah, hypnotherapy is great. I like it because it turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. You can, find things that, maybe you've been buried, because often we have disassociate from memories and it can bring things back. So, yeah, I think it's great for fragmented memories. Definitely give it a go. Start with that.
Yeah, I'm curious about it.
Yeah, let me know how you go.
Okay, I'll look into it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Renata.
Hi, Dr. Fiona.
Hello.
Okay, just a really fast update. I'm having a pretty good cycle. My BBT was pretty amazing. Everything is like goes down and comes up. I was so excited. My tongue is still a good color. Dr. Linda approved. But
Yeah.
I did something stupid.
What do you mean?
So there was a wedding Saturday night.
Yeah.
And live music, wonderful band. Went home. I was like, I'm gonna go home and go to bed, right on time. But then I was still kind of active, and I got on Facebook, and I didn't get to bed till like 11:30. And then the next night, same thing. Couldn't get to bed. I didn't get to bed, my bad, until 11:30. So my temperature was going up, and now it's synced down. I'm at it's 4 DPOs, and now it's trying to come back up. So I'm like, all right, how do I supplement? I'm thinking vitamin C, B vitamins,
Magnesium.
magnesium, not just stress, but how to build the progesterone back up if it's progesterone. Yeah.
So I would be looking at, all right, like, because you can go into overthinking about it. Two small drops. It's not, remember, we're organic living matter. Let's look at a little bit of a sleep interruption, but we can retrain it pretty quickly. So I really like even just the little things, legs up the wall, Viparita Karani, legs up the wall, 15 minutes before bed. It's pooling the blood where it needs to be, because that's what we need right now.
Yeah.
We're coming into that implantation window. And so I'd be doing legs up the wall and just winding yourself down, like maybe going, all right, the wind down starts at 9. Drink your sleepy tea and your magnesium, legs up the wall, spray the magnesium under the liver, have a magnesium bath, eat regular meals, hydration. But yeah, if you can do legs up the wall, I love Viparita Karani. And you could do your whole brain posture. because it's like if you are thinking about it, when you do that, it starts to bring us into those alpha brain waves. So that's a quick thing, because you can go, right, I can hook my legs, I can do my whole brain. Think about how you're going to sleep well tonight. Not think about what you didn't do, because what we want to do is literally go into what can we do moving forward. You're going to think, I'm going to sleep well tonight. I'm in my alpha brain waves. I'm going to be, in the subconscious very soon. So what am I thinking as I'm doing my whole brain posture? See this little embryo burrowing in. Yeah.
Right.
Got it.
Great.
It'll be fun.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, ladies, any more questions? Any more questions? All right. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. I will. Oh, here we go. One last. Ines?
No, actually, no question, but I just wanted to make sure that Jamie looked at the comment that I left below. And that's all.
Okay, I will pass this on to Jamie. It's look up there, HMI College of Hypnotherapy for Jamie.
Yeah.
She may have left, but I will drop it to her. I'll drop it to her.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you, ladies. Lots of love. Sweet good night. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. See you later.